Good morning, Wabash. Our speaker this morning studied political science at Holy Cross in Massachusetts. She then received her master's in sports administration from Central Michigan University, and then is currently working on her PhD in socio-historical aspects of sports, and began teaching at UNC Greensboro to do that. While there, she started a class on hip-hop culture in 2002, and began her tenure track at Wabash this past semester after a year as a visiting professor, the Owen Dustin visiting professor last year. Please welcome Professor Tracey Salisbury for her chapel talk, Wabash Always Thinks, or Does It?
Thank you. As he said, my name is Tracey Salisbury. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I consider Greensboro, North Carolina, though, my second home. I'm on the cusp of Generation X, and I'm smack dab in the middle of the second wave of the hip-hop generation. I am a proud and fierce black feminist. No one's running from the room yet? Okay. I love sports, I love music, particularly hip-hop music, and I love books. I'm a Civil War buff, and I own a lovely pit bull puppy who's got the revolutionary name of Pancho Villa. I have a beautiful imaginary 3-bedroom, 2-bath, ranch-style home in graduate student loan debt. So I sympathize with my students that attend this institution and find themselves owing a little money to somebody. I love to talk loud, I love to laugh loud, and the only time you should really worry about me is when I get too quiet. Yesterday was my birthday. Yes, April Fool's Day. I absolutely love having my birthday that day. Jimmy Cliff, the reggae star, shares that birthday. Rachel Maddow, MSNBC, shares that birthday. Folk not running from the room at the mention of Rachel Maddow? Okay. I did try to convince Dr. Brewer to have her baby yesterday so they too could share that wonderful day. Okay? But in my short tenure here of 2 years at Wabash College, I have been mistaken at least once for some African-American students' mother, aunt, sister, sometimes all three on the same day within the same hour. I've been voted in as an honorary member of the Malcolm X Institute, and I have horrified the young men of the Conservative Student Union by telling their guest speaker, Christina Hoff Sommers, "Fuck Wellesley." I have attended numerous fraternity dinners and watched every single moment of a traditional chapel scene. And I know for a fact that I've contributed to quite a few of the new gray hairs that have newly sprouted up on the head of Dean Phillips from something I've said or did. I received a standing ovation at my very first faculty meeting I attended, which I hope makes up just a little bit for my friend and now retired Wabash College professor of psychology, Dr. Brenda Bankhart, who was greeted with boos and jeers at her very first faculty meeting. I've sweated through comps alongside with my students. I have survived dining at Sparks on more than one occasion. And recently, I have wanted to run screaming down to the registrar's office to find out how a sophomore with the last name that starts with Z can possibly get into a lab science. I've wondered on more than one occasion, did Dr. Cook dress so colorfully when he was a student at Wabash, and was Pep White going to survive after eating 2 fish sandwiches drenched with hot sauce at last Friday's Malcolm X Institute fish fry? I could not imagine a more interesting campus to spend last year's presidential election. From the student debates to the student that had the Ron Paul for president bedsheet sign hanging outside of his window, to hearing Young Jeezy's "My President is Black" blaring from the MXI on election night. It was beautiful. And with regards to my chapel talk host, the Sphinx Club, I've been amused by watching the air raids, wondering what one of those gold bricks might fetch on eBay. Been completely horrified by Sphinx Club pledges outfits on Valentine's Day, particularly that person that had to wear that slip dress. and all those nasty socks dangling from your waist all year long. No, I don't want nothing from that sock, mister. Now, lastly, as part of my introduction, from time to time, living in the city of Crawfordsville has made me question my decision-making and my sanity, often at the same time. But nothing I've experienced on this campus, the good, the bad, the ugly, has made me regret deciding to come teach at Wabash College. Therefore, I want to be crystal clear about my tone in my commentary today. Many of my remarks will be perceived as critical or challenging, and make no mistakes, my words are meant to be those very things. But in no way should my comments be taken in the manner I was recently falsely accused of being unhappy with my position at the college, or the fact that Wabash is an all-male institution. I am still waiting to get my Wabash shirt that says co-ed never. Okay, I get it, it's an all-male space. I love teaching at Wabash College. I turned down 3 tenure-track job offers to roll the dice on a visiting professorship position at this college nearly 2 years ago. I was greatly pleased to earn a tenure-track appointment here. When I began looking for my first real job in academia, it was not the money, the location, or the resources that drove my decision. It was the reputation of the students. My experiences interacting with students shaped my decision. I wanted to teach the best students possible. I received 2 offers that paid more money than Wabash and were located in more interesting locales than the lovely city of Crawfordsville. But I did not think any of these institutions had better students than Wabash. I strongly believe that all professors, at least professors who truly love teaching, want to teach the best students possible. They want the brightest students, the most passionate for knowledge and experiences, the students who want and expect to be challenged in the classroom each and every day. Professors want to be challenged to use all their training, skills, and knowledge in the classroom to produce and develop different ways to engage their students to think critically with competence and compassion. And yes, in my opinion, some of the best students in the U.S. are at Wabash College. And I imagine quite a few members of the Wabash student body share my opinion. Yet confidence in your intellectual abilities is one thing. Willful arrogance and boastful, uninformed opinion is another. Hence the title of my talk today, Wabash Always Thinks or Does It? In my short time here, I have noticed a disturbing trend with a small but significant segment of the population here. In my nearly 2 years here, more often than I believe should be happening, when someone, and usually that someone is new faculty, dares raise an opinion, critique, or sometimes just a notion of an intellectual thought that raises the expectation of thinking more broadly, just outside your educational experience or your regular personal experience, suddenly that individual, usually new faculty, and more often than not new female faculty, is bombarded with accusations of challenging traditions or the mission of Wabash College, or the liberal arts education model, or not being happy at Wabash, or not being a right fit at Wabash, etc., etc., etc. Well, today, I'm calling out that argument for exactly what it is. Complete and utter malarkey, horse manure, bullpucky, king-size cow patties, bullshit. This line of argument has absolutely nothing to do with tradition at Wabash or the mission of the college. It has a whole lot to do with some folks not wanting to think critically outside of one's comfort zone, not wanting to admit they don't know something, not wanting to reflect deeply when confronted with ideas, beliefs, or knowledge that makes them waver, wonder, or reconsider ideas or beliefs or knowledge that they have long held firmly for many years. And instead of rising to the intellectual challenge that has been raised to them, there is this attempt to threaten, bully, or silence the voices of people they do not agree with. I do not profess to know all the history of Wabash, but I know for damn sure this is not the tradition or the mission of this institution to not engage in critical thinking, broad intellectual discussion, or spirited but civil discourse. In fact, the mission of this institution is as it follows. Wabash College educates men to think critically, act responsibly, lead effectively, and live humanely. On occasion, more often than I really care to admit, I have had to wonder if my colleagues, my students, and myself were always holding each other accountable to those 4 principles when they suited our individual beliefs or agendas. In my view, there are 4 primary objectives of the college, not just simple principles folks can engage in selectively. Now, give or take a few days, it's been 4 years since former Wabash College professor of English, Joy Castro, presented her chapel talk, Ass Rape, Campus Discourse, and the Problems with Wabash Leadership. In that talk, Dr. Castro laid down a challenge to the Wabash College community to engage one another in intellectual discussion that was more civil, more humane, and more open to everyone on campus. At that time, Dr. Castro was confronting serious issues of sexism being encountered by the female faculty and staff working at the college, and addressing the use of misogynistic, violent language on campus by students, faculty, and staff. Now, I believe in 4 years, Wabash College has made tremendous strides in terms of public debate of campus issues and in terms of how diverse communities engage one another in public discourse. Yet after watching Dr. Castro's chapel talk, I have to wonder that if she was invited back to visit, and I hope that one day she will, I would wonder if she would still see some of the same problems present at Wabash when she originally gave her chapel talk. I believe, I'm speculating though, that she would be extremely disappointed to discover that any Wabash professor that dared to raise different viewpoints, counter ideologies, or basically play the devil's advocate would still have their loyalty and commitment to the college questioned by a small yet significant population of the institution. The catalytic agent, and I apologize to my students that are science majors and my colleagues who are science professors, my own liberal arts education was limited in terms of science to one class entitled Biology for Non-Majors. It was one of the most happily earned C's in my undergraduate career. The core inspiration for my chapel talk today is directly related to a couple of recent discussions on campus. One occurred Tuesday evening. It was the panel discussion, hosted by the Wabash Commentary. One of the things that struck me was when the posters started going up and the emails started going out, and one of the questions was, how do you make new Wabash faculty adapt to Wabash? And I thought of the word adapt. You kidnap wild animals from the jungle to make them adapt to zoo life. I don't know if anybody issued Pat White or Dean Phillips a whip and a chair to make new faculty adapt to Wabash. I don't know what the word adapt means in terms of that. And if we want to find out or discover what new young faculty think about Wabash College, wouldn't it have been nice to invite a few to participate on the panel? Considering that more than 1/3 of the Wabash faculty is young, female, and there's a smattering of color. It would have been nice to have seen a younger female faculty member included on the panel. You could have got 2 for 1. Guess who that would have been? Now, Dr. Kubiak and I have had our disagreements. But I actually was very intrigued at one of the quotes that was taken from his talk yesterday at the panel. And he says here, if Caleb Mills were to return today, he'd be appalled. Now we're going to get back to that part. The question also assumes the faculty my age preserve the Wabash way. I think that it's part of the Wabash way to worry about losing the Wabash way. But I think there is a way, which is by inspiring men with the love of learning. I don't disagree with the last part of that. But I think Caleb Mills, if there was such a thing as a time machine, and he could come back here to today, April the 2nd, 2009, I don't think Caleb Mills would begin to know what to be horrified by. And it wouldn't necessarily be because there's new young faculty who haven't adapted to the Wabash way. Okay? We need to think about these kind of statements. What are we actually saying to people? Does it, if you want the best students, okay, if I want the best students, don't you want the best professors? Or do you want professors that just come and agree with everything you tell them? This is supposed to be a two-way dialogue. Right? Now the second part, and I admired the panel. I don't want to get the commentary all upset with me again. I admire the panel. It's a first step in a discussion, I hope, that will broaden and include the rest of the community. Okay? But my second and the larger piece of what pushed my discussion today is that I have been generously profiled by both the Phoenix and the Bachelor. Both experiences were extremely enjoyable and conducted with a great deal of grace and respect for my position as a newcomer at the college. The majority of the feedback I received from these interviews has been very positive. And even the small critiques I received were very thoughtful and expressed with respect and concern, with people taking me aside and saying, hey, you know, this is some of the things we do at Wabash. This is some of the things we have at Wabash. And I appreciated that. And students who came in and just said, you know, I wondered about what you said, and let's talk about it. It was great. It's one of the things you love about this place. I will argue till the day is long that the difference between Wabash and other colleges is that Wabash doesn't say no. Wabash, when you're asked to do something, when you want to do something, Wabash says, well, I don't know, let's see what we can do, let's try. That is, you have no idea for a professor, that basic little twist in philosophy, how different that is, how important that is to getting the job done you need to do. Only thing that really worried me about both my profiles in the Bachelor and in the Phoenix was all the comments were always prefaced with, wow, you survived. I just was shocked that your profile was going to be positive. And I thought, wow, where are we that you are so concerned that your students are going to say something horrible, nasty, and negative about you? And I'm not sure whose reputation that is being cast doubt upon, the students or the faculty. But nobody should ever wonder when they open a student publication that someone's going to be attacked or outed, or their family member's going to be attacked, or something about their personal life's going to be attacked. It is okay to critique, but to demolish means something else. Remember, fellas, when we go somewhere, when we present at another institution, at a conference, we wear badges proudly that say Wabash College. We represent you. We speak for you, just standing up, being present, how we present ourselves. People remember that. But if you treat me as an outsider to that, what are you saying? What are you saying about me? Right? Now, what got me, and why I say we must learn how to think, and think respectfully, and ask questions, was the opinion response I got back to my profile in the Bachelor. And when I read it, I thought, well, wow. Well, if you've ever had a class with me, you know what I thought. And I really can't rattle off the expletive deletives that first were in my head, but I can give you a historical example of, I imagine, and I'm speculating, that at Custer's last stand, one of his men ran up that hill and said, you yellow-haired son of a gun, you got us all killed. And I thought, wow. Now, I have no doubt this young man who wrote this column thought quite hard before committing his critique to my words to public memory. But I do wonder if he thought in terms of the college mission: to think critically, act responsibly, live humanely, lead effectively and lead humanely, excuse me. Let's deal first with the title of his column. Tenure is not for everyone. I'll say that again. Tenure is not for everyone. Now, my second thought past the expletive deletives reading that was, what does a student who has yet to earn a degree at all know about a person earning tenure? I think that's a fair question to ask. And what did tenure have to do with my comments? I'm in my first year. I took it very much as a threat. Ergo, if you disagree with people, if you present different ideas than people, your tenure should be in question. Wow. What if we had that standard for comps? How about for the order you get to register? I don't like that kid, he's last. I'm a pretty tough customer, okay? I've been criticized by some of the best folks in the world. That wasn't gonna bother me. I thought about my younger colleagues who may not be as outspoken as I am. Tenure is not for everyone. Went out on the internet. Tenure is not for everyone. You're right. Because professors have the option of choosing the institution they teach at. When you assume that tenure is a tool, a weapon to hold over somebody's head in the 21st century, I'm sorry, but in a lot of ways, you're sadly mistaken. After May 2009, I will be a black woman with a PhD. I am a hot commodity. I love Wabash, and I want to be here, and right now, I'm staying. But threatening me ain't gonna work, okay? Now, let's deal with the last comments in his column. I do not personally know Professor Salisbury, and thus look forward to her explanations and ideas about how Wabash, as she journeys on her way to tenure. Now, please forgive me if I say that I find the young man's words to be completely dishonest, lacking in courage, and completely without a shred of integrity. Now, I know for some of you that might sound harsh, but this is a tiny campus. If this young man was truly interested in engaging me in an open and honest dialogue about my teaching philosophy, my views about Wabash College, and my journey to tenure at the college, my office is located in Baxter Hall, number 28. Okay? And considering I am the only sister located in the entire building, one of two black female faculty on the entire campus, I know I am not hard to pick out of the beautiful Wabash crowd. Further, if this young man was so frightened, so scared by my words as he claimed to be, you would think there would have been a sense of urgency for him to clear the air with me. But apparently not. Because the night before this column was published, this same young man who wrote this column was sitting right next to me, right here, in senior colloquium, for 2.5 hours. Never said a word. It makes more sense now than when I sat down while he was looking at me with eyes like Woodsy Owl. But it really hurt my feelings. Because I thought, damn, what have you done? Because that boy should have been able to say, you know, Professor Salisbury, I already wrote my column. And, you know, but I got a critique of some of the things you said in your interview. And maybe I should have came and talked to you before, but I didn't. But I'm letting you know now there's going to be something. I want you to read it, and then maybe we can come by your office and have a discussion. I'd have respected that. You don't got to agree with me. And I might not have been able to change his mind on anything. I know I ain't going to be able to change his mind today. But at least I would have been given the courtesy to express myself. Now, forget about me. I want to get back to the heart of his argument about new faculty at Wabash. And I'm not picking on this young man per se, because he oftentimes threw around the word we. And he had 4 principles. One was professors must fully embrace our commitment to the all-male student body. That's a good thing. I'm in agreement with him. But yet, I am surprised that this maintains to be a persistent myth with new faculty, that somehow if you raise new ideas, new principles, that you are threatening the Wabash all-male institution ideal. That's baloney. In my 2 years here, I have never heard a professor say, well, I took this job at Wabash, but my real dream is to help the school go co-ed. I have never heard that. That went over well in the interview. Let's let that one go, fellas. Everybody wants to teach men here. We sometimes miss women in the classroom. We sometimes miss them. Okay? But we understand this is an all-male institution. We support it. We're proud of it. I'm proud of it. Let that bogus argument go. Number 2, while research is highly encouraged, professors' primary goal should be the education of the students. Okay, clearly this guy's never been to the new faculty orientation. Every piece of paper you get has the mission statement at the top of it. If you don't know your first job is to educate the students, you ain't gonna be happy here. That's why we have an open door policy. That's why you guys can drop by and talk about your C&T paper for hours. Okay? But number 1, the world is changing in academia. You need to pay attention to that. That means President Pat White and Dean Phillips and our colleagues are pushing one another to, yes, teach at the most top quality, but also produce this research that reflects well on this college. Some of the most popular professors on this campus are some of the best researchers on this campus. So I find it amusing when you would challenge that somehow the research being done by professors should somehow be secondary. Wabash is like the Obamas. We can multitask. Number 3, professors must be committed to the classical definition of liberal arts education. Now, this is the one that had me scratching my head, because what the hell exactly is the classical definition of a liberal arts college? I went to one, Holy Cross College in Worcester, Massachusetts, where Dean Gary Phillips taught for a very long time. And if you want to know the epitome of a lightning rod of a person, it's Dean Gary Phillips when he was Professor Gary Phillips at Holy Cross College, which is a Jesuit Catholic institution that used to be all male and had only recently started admitting women maybe 15 years after I was attending there. So you had priests openly on the campus doing quadruple takes at women walking past. And then you had Professor of Religion Gary Phillips with big hair out to here, the earring, wearing Levi's jeans when most professors wore suits, some kind of rumpled dress shirt, and some kind of tie that was pulled down. They were throwing holy water at him every time he went across the campus. Sometimes a little rebel is good on your institution. But is liberal arts defined the same way at every school? You go down to Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina, one of the last all-black female collegial institutions. One of their majors is Africanist, womanist, religious studies. How many campuses have that? 1. And it's in their mission statement. This is the liberal arts tradition My sister went to Mills College in Oakland, California, one of them beautiful campuses you do not set foot off after dusk, where she studied German and sneered at the male interns on her all-female campus. So y'all ain't the only ones picking on interns. Liberal arts does have a basic definition, but Wabash is not special in terms of its fierceness of fighting on and holding on to its definition of the liberal arts. But we need to remember, as faculty, as students, as staff, that that definition means different things, different places. And we have our way, but we respect the other way. Number 4. And this is the one that I just basically said, that ain't none of your damn business. Professors should be committed to living with a 20-mile radius of the college. Woo! Is that even the outskirts of Crawfordsville, 20 miles? How far does that get you? Lebanon? I know it's 90% jest and 10% black conspiracy theory, but I strongly believe that it's somebody's job in the Chamber of Commerce in the city of Crawfordsville that when any African American leaves town, that they have to run out there with the bucket of water and the rag and change the chalkboard and says, there's only 19 African Americans left in town. That woman that teaches at Wabash went out of town. She'll be back on Monday. We can go back to 20. Crawfordsville is a nice town. It's got nice people in it. And I don't mean to disrespect the town. There's very welcoming people here. All right? So I got a great story from the town of Crawfordsville. When I moved here, I moved into a loft that was a disaster, like most rental properties in Crawfordsville are. So I run down to Ace Hardware, and it's a family-owned father and son place. Nicest people you want to meet. And there's a young man in there that was helping me pick out paint to paint my loft, and he started saying he was a junior. And he said, you know, my dream is to go to Wabash. He says, but I don't think I'm good enough to go there. And I said, oh, that's ridiculous. I give him the spiel, give him my card. So a year later, I get this, Professor Salisbury, I'm going to apply to Wabash, and would you look over my stuff, and blah, blah, blah. I said, sure. I couldn't remember exactly who the kid was. Guess who's been accepted to the incoming fall class? That young man. So, we're not cutting on the town of Crawfordsville. Because I kind of always wonder, what do Wabash men who are from Crawfordsville think of that? But I would love to have a conversation with this person about living in Crawfordsville and being a person of color. You know, I'm a religious woman. My denomination does not exist in Crawfordsville. I like to cook, or as I tell the brothers, I like to burn pots. Ain't too much soul food jumping off in Crawfordsville, except at Shea Murillo when I can sponge an invitation. Or Vegetarian Delight at the Phillips house. And clearly there's a need because the fish fry was busy. You are adapting to lots of things when you choose to come to Wabash College. All of us. And I only ask 2 simple things from now on. When you approach new faculty or they say something that upsets you, if you want us to adapt, then act like we belong here from the get-go. Don't treat us like we're foreign invaders coming to topple the all-male institution of Wabash. We ain't trying to do that. I'm purposely waiting till next year to attend my first Wabash graduation, because that'll be my first graduation with the fellas I lovingly call my boys. And that'll be Colin Rednow and John Henry and Gary James, okay? Charles Goodman, Mr. King. My boys. The fellas who came up to me and going, "Oh, I don't know you. Who are you?" And made me feel welcome here. I got a lot of love for them. I'm proud of them. That means something to me. That means I had a little bit of something to do with making them the Wabash men that they are. That means something. And I expect that to be respected. Even if I say something that scares you or you feel the need to disagree with. We can agree to disagree and still be friends. Can't we, Juan? Can't we? I was scaring Juan at senior colloquium. And if you want to know what new faculty think, ask them. Stop assuming. Because we know what assume means, don't we? You will find that new faculty will probably be some of the most fierce protectors of the Wabash ideal. So let's stop making that argument. There's a whole lot of things you could critique Miss Tracey Salisbury on. But saying that I don't love Wabash College, to say that I don't respect that this is an all-male space, is just wrong. And the fact that I sat through Tammy Bruce proves it. So in closing, I want to thank the Sphinx Club for inviting me, and the Multicultural Concerns Committee for reaching out to me to do this. This is another good one for me. And I appreciate your attendance. Thank you.